This is the story of how I met my girlfriend Beo, and how I ended up spending over $1,500 on a trip to meet her for the first time.
So at the time, I was looking for friends. So I joined the Make Friends Discord server and uploaded my intro into the intro channel for users to read over and message me if they thought we could be good friends.
Meanwhile, I had recently lost my Discord account and was looking for old friends who I had originally found on the same server. After a couple weeks, I saw Beo's intro, so I decided to DM her to see if we might be friends. So the first time that I had messaged her was on Halloween night, and even within the first few minutes, we absolutely hit it off as friends.
We discussed a lot of the basics and found we had a lot of overlapping interests and beliefs such as our faith, music, and weird schooling experiences. Since the vibes were right, I invited him to play Minecraft, which is something I initiate only with the people I really vibe with.
When we first logged onto the Minecraft server, it was really cool to hear her voice for the first time. And I still remember after a long 5-hour session of playing Minecraft, Beo wouldn't stop talking about how I should make ASMR videos.
Okay, I secretly found his voice hot, but I was not gonna tell him that, so I was just like, yo, ASMR videos.
I was still enrolled in full-time school, so I had limited time to actually play on the server, but Beo was homeschooled and even feeling sick, so this gave her all the time in the world to develop our Minecraft world.
I was secretly wanting to impress Coda because I found him really cool, so I would make these extravagant updates and builds in our world just to show him when he got back from school every day. We spent countless hours playing around and voice chatting, all while getting to know each other better. At this time, I actually thought to myself, I'm gonna end up dating this kid someday, but I didn't know how it was possible because we were across the country and I didn't online date. So I decided to just let things fall, how they were gonna. A week later, my aunt invited me down to California as a birthday gift, which is so close to the state where Coda lived, so we both enjoyed being in the same time zone.
Even though we had only been friends for about a month, I decided to splurge on a birthday gift for Beo and got her an expensive hot cocoa maker and some Andes Mints, her favorite candy at the time.
I was absolutely blown away with this gift, and this was the beginning of a long back and forth challenge to one-up each other's gifts. And for the record, I won, for now. It was difficult for me to explain to my parents why a guy on the internet had sent me a hot cocoa maker and chocolate, but they let it slide.
If it wasn't obvious enough, soon after her trip to California, I started catching feelings. Of course, I knew our friendship was exclusively online, and it would take a miracle to change that. So I held off on saying anything for about a month.
At this point in time, I was living in the cheerful bliss of our friendship, having no idea that I had befriended the world's biggest simp. It probably should have been obvious with the amazing gift.
I wasn't sure how to make my attraction to the floofhead herself known, or even if it was a good idea, because who knows how our friendship would have gone if I did confess my feelings. So, in a desperate attempt to cover all my bases, and also just to say a few things that I had wanted to get off my chest for a while, I decided to write a 4-page confession letter to Beo.
It took almost 30 minutes to read through the entire novel he sent me, but they were really sweet and detailed and well thought out words. But I had to reject him. Because I don't online date. But if it had ended at that would have been pretty depressing. I let him know that I also felt attraction towards him, but that we could see what the future held in store.
But even though the words were hard to hear, I knew they were true. And the best thing to do was wait and see how things worked out.
Nothing changed in our friendship for several months, and at that point, I was about to debut as a VTuber. I joked with him about one day doing a road trip, because who doesn't love road trips? They're awesome.
A couple months out from Beo's debut, I randomly received a message one night from her asking if I wanted to come with her to a summer camp that her church was hosting. There were only 4 spots remaining, so without even checking with my parents, I told her to put me down on the list. But when the day finally came, I packed my bags and headed to the airport.
When the camp week arrived, I was hyped as hell for our first meetup. Coda had to get on the plane pretty early, so I woke up while he was still flying.
I landed safely in Beo State, then continued on in my adventure with an hour-long Uber ride, where I first arrived at the church that was hosting the summer camp. I knew absolutely no one there, and on top of that, I had to wait 7 hours before Beo even arrived.
And due to complications, I couldn't come see him or pick him up, because at that time, I couldn't even drive. After lunch, I was taken to the summer camp church, where students were arriving and the buses were starting to get packed. Coda and I met up, exchanged some gifts. The bus ride was agonizing, and it was the world's most painful seats that I ever have sat in, may I note.
17 agonizing hours later, we both arrived at the summer camp and got settled. It was amazing to get to spend time with her in real life, and things had gone better than I ever could have imagined. Things were going so good that on the last day of camp, I decided to propose. With a ring pop. It was a joke, of course, but it was a hilarious blend of cringe and wholesomeness.
We did just about every cheesy almost couple thing, including a first kiss while hiding from the counselors, and walked everywhere together. We lied to everyone and said that we were childhood friends. It was an awesome week, and definitely enriched our friendship. And no, we still weren't dating after camp.
The trip was a success. And better yet, things had gone so well at camp that Beo and I had a new problem to figure out.
At this time, I wanted to leave my state. I'd wanted to leave for a very long time because it just wasn't healthy for me to stay. So when looking at new places to move, out of state, Coda and I played around with the idea of me moving up to his state. It sounded a little crazy at the time, and we just decided to consider it further, later on, because I wasn't even 18 at the time.
It was really sad having to be so far away from Beo for so long ever since the camp trip happened. After a few months of this, I had been invited to join a family gathering with Beo's family just 3 days before it actually happened.
My mom surprised me and asked if I'd like to invite Coda to the family get-together.
I couldn't be more excited to fly out again a lot sooner than we had planned.
By this time, I actually had a car and got to pick Coda up from the airport this time. We were stoked to see each other again, had a great breakfast, then drove 5 hours to a giant 20-person Airbnb.
As expected, things were going amazingly, but it was about to get even better. On the second night of our trip, we decided to have our first date night.
We got dressed up in our best, Coda had managed to pack a suit in his luggage that somehow remained unwrinkled, and I had a pretty dress I'd thrifted for a while back. We had planned a reservation at a restaurant that overlooked a river, with a water and fire show and an outdoor stage for passerbys to watch.
After so long of knowing each other, we finally went on that first date. And it was a night to remember. To start off, a couple behind our table heard us talking about how amazing it was to finally be together in person, and they paid for our entire meal at a 5-star restaurant. They left before the staff could even tell us, and I never got to thank them, but they truly added to the magic of that night. As a flashback to the first joke proposal with the ring pop at camp, I decided to do it again, though this time with a much more fancy ring. Of course, Beo and I both knew it was a joke, but the 100 people who were watching us didn't even know that.
It was an absolute adrenaline rush for him to ask me to be his girlfriend with a proposal ring in a box and everything in front of 100 people right next to a stunning water and fire show. Afterwards, he bought me a cat plush from a store nearby and we had an excellent rest of our evening.
It felt so awesome to walk down the street receiving countless compliments on our outfits. A month later after our trip, I invited Beo over to my state to spend Thanksgiving with me and my family. It was so cool to show her around and go on adventures all around the area. I had fantasized about this for months, just getting to show her all the stores and all the clothing shops and places around my city.
Over the next few days, I found an apartment to rent when I moved and got coffee with the current resident who would be my future roommate. Early December, Coda flew down to my state a couple days before I was going to move to his. He'd offered to help me drive up, as it'd take almost 3 days straight. I had my car packed to the brim with my belongings and felt pretty confident in my driving skills. Spoiler alert, I did not hit anyone or anything. I am a great driver. We ate lunch with my parents and brother before heading up and beginning our trip. We were on a roll, literally.
Well, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
For the most part, things were going super smooth, and we had no issues for the first couple of days of the trip. It was only until we had arrived in Las Vegas that Beo's demon car had decided to have a little oopsie.
I hate that car so much. As we were approaching Las Vegas, my car apparently was having a heart attack or something. It went into shutdown mode, where it'd progressively limit how fast I could go. I was slamming on the gas pedal and it could barely hit 40. And that was bad, because we were going up and down mountains on a 65-mile-per-hour road.
We barely rolled into Las Vegas, and instead of taking it to a shop first thing, we went to a pink plushie arcade, which was absolutely worth it, according to Beo.
It so was. I won 3 of them. One day, and $1,000 later, we were back on the road.
And thank goodness we were able to get those repairs taken care of, because it made for a super smooth rest of the drive back. It was official.
I moved into my apartment, spent Christmas with Coda and his family, and now here we are. Best decision I ever made, and I'm really happy here. Thanks, guys, for watching our story. I hope you enjoyed.
Don't try this at home.
Don't.
Do not.